Best of R / Tales from Retail episode 133. Subscribe for edit videos daily. Stepladders and chop saws. A couple of years ago I got a job at a local hardware store just for the summer for extra money. The A/C never worked. This is Louisiana in summer. The owner was a jerk, but overall it wasn't a bad job. My co-workers were what made all the heavy lifting, annoying clientele, and constantly being covered in sweat and dirt worth it. The co-worker, C, this story is about, was hilarious and really helpful when I first started, having never worked retail before. He also happened to be a little person, important for the story. It was stocking day and me, another co-worker, and our manager was stocking paint up front. C is working the front counter and greeting customers. It's a slow day, but a customer comes in asking for some pipe in a specific length. We see C take the customer to the back. After about 5 minutes we hear the chop saw start up. The manager peeks around the corner and just says "Oh my god," and sprints to the back of the store where C, unable to reach the handle at the top of the saw to cut a pipe, is standing on a stepladder behind the saw. He's cutting metal pipe with a saw whose blade is spinning toward his face, showering him with sparks. We probably should be concerned at this point, but, being used to C's antics, we were dying laughing at the manager's apparent terror. The manager turns off the saw and asks C, "What the are you doing?" To which he replies, "I'm working." The "you doing?" Long story, but C was a hard worker and certainly wasn't going to let anyone tell him you can't. One of my favorite moments at that crappy store. Thank you. Next. Strawberry plant man. I worked at a certain retail giant that shall remain nameless for over 10 years. The majority of the time I worked there was spent behind the customer service desk, so I dealt with a lot of cranky customers in my day, but this guy takes the cake. This old guy comes up to the desk one morning with 2 receipts in his hand and he slams them on the desk asking, "What the hell is this about?" Pointing to the total on the receipt he just got a few minutes earlier. I looked at it and I said, "I'm not sure what you mean," so he slid the other receipt closer to me and said, "Look, why was I charged more today than I was yesterday? I bought 2 strawberry plants yesterday and 2 more today, but I was charged almost double what I paid yesterday." I looked at both receipts and saw that he just bought 2 strawberry plants, 4 liters of milk and 2 boxes of cereal, but the previous day he only bought the 2 plants. I told him, "You were charged the same price for the plants today as you were yesterday. The reason the total is higher is because of the milk and cereal." He got pissed off and shouted, "No, you're not understanding me. I'm just talking about the plants." So I pointed out again that the price was the same on both receipts and he said, "Well, why did I pay more today?" Again I mentioned the milk and cereal and he cut me off like that doesn't matter. So I said, "Well, they're not free, so yes it does matter." This really got him going. He started arguing with me so loudly that the manager and 4 cashiers came over to see what was going on. I started trying to explain to the manager what his problem was and he cut me off again saying, "No, you're not listening. I just want the plants for the same price I paid yesterday." The manager looked at the receipts and told him the exact same thing I had just explained to him and the guy was like, "Oh, forget it. I'm just gonna return them." I processed his refund and handed him the money and he said, "Where's the rest of it?" So I said, "Oh, are you returning the milk and cereal too?" He looked confused and said no, so I said, "Well, I can't give you a refund for them if you're keeping them," and that's the moment he finally realized why his total that day was higher than the day before. He walked away with his tail between his legs. Thank you. Next. That time a customer tried using my dead uncle as leverage to bargain. This happened a couple of weeks ago, but it still pisses me off when I think about it. My place of work is a family business. My grandfather founded our store. My dad and mom bought it from him, and I'm now working the desk, along with some of my siblings. My mom and dad didn't originally plan to be sole owners, however. My uncle also was very involved with the business and wanted to go in on it with them. Unfortunately, about 6 months before the deal was supposed to happen, he unexpectedly suffered a stroke and died while walking his dogs. It was so fast, I never got the chance to say goodbye. He was out less than 2 hours after he went down. He was young too, only 42. I was wrecked emotionally for a long time after that. My parents pulled out of the deal and waited another 7 months past the original date to buy the business, both to heal further and to put things in order. My uncle knew codes to safes, passwords to accounts, all that, and when he went he took all of that with him, so it was really difficult to track everything down. We now have a memorial photo in the store, with his death date and a little message about what he's done for the store. Every so often, a customer who met him once will give us their condolences. While I love my uncle and enjoy the memorial picture, sometimes it really hurts to have someone who barely knew him try to comfort you while you're just trying to work. However, this customer took it a step too far. As soon as she came in, she went to our higher end product and began to complain that everything was too pricey, that our prices used to be lower, they weren't. Before spotting the memorial photo, she looks towards me and says, "Oh, uncle, used to bargain with me all the time. It's such a shame. Because I'm stupid and try to give people the benefit of the doubt, I assume she's just giving a weird kind of condolence. I don't like talking about him in front of strangers, so I switch topics and direct her towards our lower end goods that are more in her price range. She gives me a weird look and continues on bemoaning our prices and how uncle would always make them lower for her. Then, out of nowhere, as I'm talking about our mid-range product, she blurts, 'Do you not even care?' I turn totally stone-faced, 'Thanks, face mask,' and, as calmly as I can, I say of course I do, but unfortunately I can't do anything about it. I don't and cannot negotiate with you. I'd like to say that I blew up and threw her out of the store, but in the end she settled on 2 lower end products and I processed her order as quickly as I could to get her out of my face. One thing I did do was simply not inform her on a sale we were having on one of her items. Oops. We'll just call that the $50 dead uncle fee. Thank you. Next. Excited dog demands attention while I'm working. Edit. Thanks for the gold. I've never had this before. At the store I work, I do tend to get a small percentage of people with dogs and most dogs are friendly and bark free. At the time, I was assisting a family at self-checkout and they had an adorable dog that kinda looked like a small border collie or Aussie shepherd with a mostly black coat. Definitely an adolescent puppy though. She was super energetic and while I was trying clean one of the other registers, she came up to me, put her paws on my leg and jumped on me a few times. It was a little off-putting but nothing serious. I like it when customers bring in their well-behaved pooches because it does provide stress relief for me and my coworkers when they, dogs, come up to us for a head or back scratch. So I go back to cleaning up and she comes around, leashed obviously. The leash was being held by one of the family's kids, and she continues to get excited and wiggly like I'm her new BFF. Then, Miss Wigglebutt gets down on the ground and goes belly up in front of me, expecting me to give her a tummy rub. Being the sucker that I am, I give Miss Wigglebutt a tummy rub before getting back to work. Thank you. Next. Saw something good happen today. I work as a cashier at a big box retailer. Today I had a customer come in, let's call her customer 1. She had a return without a receipt. Usually we put a refund like that on a store credit, but customer 1 said a store by her house assured her we could look up her receipt and put the refund back on her card. We don't normally pull up receipts like this, as this info isn't accessible through our main registers, but my manager was feeling very generous and went to the back to pull up customer 1's receipt. While she was waiting, I rang up another customer. We'll call customer 2. Customer 2 had about 3 bags worth of merchandise in her cart, which is no small amount. When it came time for her to pay, customer 2 discovered she had left her wallet at home, and she didn't have Apple Pay or another service set up on her phone. Currently, my store isn't letting us hold items overnight, and customer 2 said she wasn't able to go home and retrieve her wallet before our store closed. I was about to cancel customer 2's transaction when customer 1 piped up and suggested customer 2 simply Venmo her the money, and she'll pay the bill. I stood for a few seconds in quiet shock because here was customer 1, doing a very kind thing when she could have easily been upset from waiting on her own transaction. The Venmo went through and customer 2 was able to leave with her purchases. Customer 1 was cheery and patient all the way through her own transaction. It's days like today that give me a little more hope. Thank you. Next. How did he open a new credit card? I work at retail store that offers store credit cards. Upon approval, they'll get a receipt as their temp card, or they can use their ID and personal info to pull up the account. This dude approached me with 2 filled to the top shopping bags. Alongside were 2 women, who I was guessing his wife and his mom. Somewhere in that shopping spree, he lost his temp card, and he ended me his id to pull up his account. It was instant red flag. There was a punch in his card. Not an id from my state, but I assume it's universal rule across different continents that punched id are not valid. No, it's not expired. So I have no idea why there was a punch there. The address in our system and his id doesn't even match up. But it did pulled up. Someone in my store opened a credit card account for this dude, with an invalid id, right before he's going back to another country. He said he's from X country and will go back soon. He was extra concerned about billing problems and super worried about getting any past due bill. He ended up paying with a debit card. I still want to know which of my brilliant co-worker opened a credit for someone with an invalid id. Thank you. Next. The shoe show. Many moons ago I managed a woman's shoe department in an upscale department store. This was back in the 80s, so lots of high heels to be had there. Most ladies would try on a few pair, and buy one or two. Typical shoppers. And then there was him. Not long after I started, this young man came into the department, wanting to see 3 or 4 different pair of what we call CFMH, come FCKME heels, in a size 10, biggest size we carried. I wasn't there to judge, just make sure we made our quotas for the month. So I wander in the back room and grab the shoes. He shoves his bigger than size 10 feet into the shoes and totters around. They apparently were not what he wanted, so he proceeded to try on the rest. Then decides he doesn't like any of them and leaves. Okay, kinda weird, but whatever. He comes back a few weeks later, same deal. Wants a bunch of CFMH in size 10, tries them all on, totters around and leaves after buying nothing. Third time my supervisor from the head office is in the department. He stopped by once a month or so, cause the head office was 7 hours away on the other side of the state. Shoe boy wanders in, starts grabbing a bunch of CFMH heels and starts walking to me. Which is when my supervisor grabs the shoes, turned shoe boy around and marches him out the door as I stand there confused. Turns out shoe boy never bought shoes. He had some sort of shoe fetish, and since I was new, I didn't know who he was. Ugh. There I was, trying to be nice to a potential customer who turned out to be only coming in to get his rocks off. I really don't miss retail.